Hi, Sue. Just wait for more people to trickle in. I hope you and Lee are doing well. I miss you guys. This is the worst part of doing lives, when it's just like 2 people and I don't know what to say. I can't start yet. There's only 1 person in here. Hopefully the notification went out to enough people that people will start joining now. I am a minute or a couple minutes early, so. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I can see your comments. I can't see you specifically. I can see you when you type things to me. Yeah, it's not like Skype where it's like a Zoom chat or something. It's more just me talking to the universe and people watching me, which is really intimidating, but the more I do it, the more I'll get better at it, I hope. In my dad's office today because it's not inside and I can be as loud as I want without disturbing my family, so that's cool. It's even quieter in here though, or even more intimidating when I'm just in a room talking to nothing. You know, I started a couple minutes early, so I don't know how many people who would usually be watching this were watching for it, but I guess I'll just stare at the screen until more people come and will them into my live. I expect Breck and Ryan to be late, because they're late to real junior jellies, let alone the lives, those rascals. Have to figure out how to use Zoom or something maybe in the future, or do a live. Well, Nicole and Paul talked to me after the last live about connecting and sharing the live, because you can go live with people, I think. So in the future I might have to figure out how to do that. I mostly did it on Instagram, and I've been saving it to make it accessible to as many people as possible, but who knows? Yay, 2 people, potentially more, depending how many people are watching from that phone. Now this just feels like a normal improv jelly rehearsal. What can I say that all of you don't already know? Is this really me teaching yet? My teachers are in here. Wearing my pink shirt. Don't know if it's actually pink shirt day, but Justin Trudeau during his address this morning was wearing a pink tie, and he said it was, so it must be true. So I'm wearing my pink shirt. Hi guys! Hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy. I went outside for the first time in 2 weeks today. Like, I've been outside, I've been on walks, but I went to the bank today. And I don't know about Red Deer. Hi, Hope. I don't know about everywhere else, but Red Deer doesn't seem to be that different. Like, Good Life Fitness was closed, but that's about it. Everyone else was kind of just as busy as it would normally be. So we've only got a couple people in here. I'll wait until a few more come in to start the actual meat of this live stream. I think most of you know what it is, but if you don't, I run an improv program at the library for middle schoolers, and we obviously cannot do that right now. So I've been doing weekly live streams, trying to do the best I can, and it's been me rambling about improv to myself in an empty room most of the time, which, you know, would be happening without a camera on. So now you all get to watch me mentally unravel. But you know what? It's fun. It's great. I think last time I talked about why I do improv and why I think improv is important and why I think everyone should do improv. And I talked about some basics. Today, I want to talk about some more basics and some more easy ways to make your scenes good or get good scenes and remember how to get your platform in, because I know a lot of people know what a platform is, but the hardest part is remembering it and remembering to include all the pieces of a platform. And then, I don't know, next time, I did kind of, I had notes last time, and I tried to make kind of a bit of a plan for what I wanted to do. So next time, I think I want to talk about scene painting and stuff like that, because that's really fun and really important. But if I ramble through all my notes today, we might just do that today. And if I guess it doesn't really matter how many people are in here while I do it, because I'll be saving this to my story and I'll be uploading it to YouTube, so anyone can watch it whenever they want. But yeah, it's more fun to perform when I know more people are watching than just like two viewers. So let's see who's still in here. Oh, it says Improv Jellies unable to join. Oh man, I just got a notification. Paul's hyping me up. Tourism Red Deer reposted the ad for this, the promo for this last week. I feel famous. There's only 2 people in this live, but I feel famous. You know, the weird part about being in my dad's office is I can hear all the wildlife. I guess while I'm waiting for people to trickle in, I'll talk a little more about, or do a little bit of review. So last time we talked about a lot of basics, so accepting, or offers, I guess, is the first thing. Offers is what you bring to the scene. It's like literally what it is, the building blocks of the scene. It's the Lego bricks that you bring into the scene. Accepting is when you take those Lego bricks and start building a house with your scene partner. Blocking, Lego blocks, blocking. Blocking is when someone gives you a Lego brick and you're like, no, this is the wrong color, and you throw it away. This analogy's going a little wild, but blocking. Waffling is when you take those Lego bricks and you're like, I don't know, where should this go? I don't know. You're not making any decisions, which isn't good because you're putting all the work on your scene partner. We talked about platforms. I mean, anyone who's been through English classes would be able to get the basic structure of an improv scene, I think, because platforms are basically who are you, where are you, what are you doing, what's your relationship, why are you there kind of thing, like the who, what, why, where, when. Same in English as it is in improv. I think I might just have 2 for the whole broadcast, but so you know what? I'll just pretend like I'm recording a video and sending it out instead of specifically playing to an audience, I guess. So I guess the first thing I kind of want to talk about today is staying in the circle of the scene. So what that basically means is your offers should fit what's already been established. So I see this a lot with people who are just starting, with my junior jellies especially, because they are middle schoolers, so things get a little zany sometimes. And the fact that you're making everything up is really exciting, and it can make you feel like, oh, we can do anything, we can bring anything into this, and you can, but that doesn't always necessarily mean you should. Like, if someone gives you an offer, of course don't block it, but if you're the one giving that offer and you want that scene to be good, stay in the circle of the scene. So that means, like, if it's been established beforehand that you're in a barn and everything so far has been about that barn, your offers should probably fit in the world of the scene. Like, don't, I guess, pull from nowhere. Don't be like, wow, now I'm gonna go ride an ostrich to the fair. Like, that's fun, and I guess you could do it, but also stay in the circle of the scene. Or, oh, hi, more people. Like, Yeah, so stay in the circle of the scene. Or I see this a lot in long form especially, and boy, I'm bad at talking. Long form and scene paints. Like in scene paints, people will paint a lot of really cool stuff, and you'll want to have to join that, or you'll want to use that because the audience will remember that was painted, and so will the people who painted it. So you should use what's there before bringing in rocket ships and space. One thing, the trap that a lot of my junior jellies fall into a lot of the time is they'll try and do jokes, or like pop culture jokes, or bring in pop culture and memes, which is really fun, but also it doesn't always fit in. So like we'll be doing Toaster, and they'll jump up and like start talking bad about James Charles or something, and like I know that that's current and pertinent to their worldview, and that it has its place, but they'll bring it into almost every scene because like it'll get a laugh once and they'll keep on bringing it in. And I think I said this last time too, the improviser who's relying on going joke to joke is stuck on the treadmill of trying to find the next joke, whereas the improviser who is telling stories, they don't have to try and think and panic and try and think of new jokes. They can just follow the natural progression of a story. So I guess that's what I want to get into next, is what makes a good story and what makes a good scene. So let me just check something here. Sorry. So basically, a good scene is the same as a good story. So if you've been to any English class, it's kind of the same. Like you need a beginning, you need a middle, and you need an end. You need some sort of conflict. In improv, it works best if the conflict is external, because no one wants to watch a scene of two people just flinging insults at each other or being assholes to each other the whole scene. Like that's, people a lot of times come to improv to escape and to smile. Not all improv is humorous, not all improv has to be comedy, but a lot of people do use improv as their escapism, and they want to watch improv and they want to be entertained. And when you come to an improv scene and you watch just people fighting and putting each other down, it's not fun to watch. It really isn't fun to watch. So in my experience, the best scenes, the conflict either comes from situations that they're put in, it comes from expectations of other characters, and if it is two characters butting heads or going against each other, hey Brack, so best scenes, the conflict, external. And if like the conflict is two people having issues and having conflict with each other, it works best when there's clear status and someone has to lose. That's another thing with new improvisers that doesn't always come across and isn't the best, or not, I guess the best isn't the word. It's hard for new improvisers to know when to lose, because we all are the hero of our own story. We're all the protagonist of our own story. So when we're doing improv, we're building these characters on the spot, and we want to look good, and we want to look cool, and we want our characters to come up on top, and we want to be the winner. But it's so much fun to lose sometimes. It's so much fun to build a character that just sucks, and you're a dick for the first half of the scene, and then you get to make the other character your hero. You get to give your character their comeuppance. So I guess if you do a scene where the conflict is two characters against each other, make sure one of them loses. Make sure, if you're going to make them a terrible person, make sure it's a caricature and not, I guess, and always be punching up. That's another really important concept, because I know that in the world, there's a lot of political correctness, and like people are really down on that, but also you never know who's going to be in your audience. You never know where your audience is coming from, and you never know the experiences of your audience, and you never know the experiences of your scene partners. So you could be making a joke that you think is really tongue-in-cheek and you think is really clever, but maybe that really sets off someone in your audience. Maybe that really hurts someone you're performing with. So if you're going to dive into any situation or any content matter that's a little touchy, make sure you're with people you trust and with people you know will get where you're coming from, and make sure you're not making a mockery of it. Make sure you're punching up, not punching down. Like, I saw a scene once that was just caricatures of, like, it's the Valley Girl trope, but it was a bunch of boys playing the Valley Girl trope, and they were just being super misogynistic, and, like, they were playing women how they think women were, you know. That, it was really uncomfortable to watch, because they were punching down. Like, I think equality is a lot better in this day and age, but it still isn't equal for everyone. Like, there's still a power imbalance, and so seeing these boys, these presumably straight white boys, go up there and, like, just make a mockery of women was really uncomfortable. And I wasn't the only one in the audience who felt that way. I wasn't the people on the stage who were sitting around them were visibly uncomfortable. So if you're gonna do scenes that are a little touchier, make sure you're punching up, make sure you're being sensitive, and make sure everyone on stage knows that you're coming from it with a place of respect, and make sure they're comfortable with it. One of the best scenes I've ever done was in a practice with Improv Jelly, and it was me and Matt, and it was basically a coming out scene. And I trust Matt a lot, and that's like an experience that isn't necessarily from my own life, but is really important to me as a queer kid. I am fortunate to come from a fairly open-minded, loving family, so I never really had to have that big, awkward, terrible coming out experience. It was just kind of like, hey, this is who I am, and they were like, cool, we know, kind of thing. But the scene that I did, it was really emotional, and Matt reacted like a real person, I think. The scene was, we were both in high school, and I was basically using him as my beard in the scene, and it was me saying, hey, I don't actually like you, I'm really, really sorry, I actually like Jessica, but I'm too scared to say anything about it, and I'm really sorry for leading you astray. And Matt in that scene reacted like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? You have been stringing me along, you've been treating me like crap, like, what am I going to tell everyone? And it turned into like a really real emotional scene that I think we both had to kind of shake off after, because it was real, but it was treated with respect, and I don't think any malice or punching down was coming out of it. It was just like living a real experience in these characters' lives, and I think it was really beautiful. So that long-winded example, I guess, is just me trying to say, if you're gonna delve into sensitive subject matter, be really careful about it. Like, we at Junior Jellies, I have a rule, no violence and no killing on stage, because otherwise every scene someone punches someone beats someone up, someone shoots someone, and while a little bit of fighting can be fun, like we did an entire spy show where like half of it was like choreographed fighting, but when all of the scenes are negative and about fighting, that's yeah, Breck, you know what's up, but yeah, no, when all the scenes are fighting, and when specifically we've had a couple scenes where I'm not going to name any names, but there was someone who like brought out a noose or mimed a noose, and like that was the one thing I had to be like, hey, let's not do that. Let's not. This is like a sensitive issue. Suicide's a really sensitive issue. You might be trying to make a joke, and I completely understand that, and maybe in context it's funny, but also you never know the situations that your scene mates are in, like, or even me, you wouldn't know, like, not to get too real, but like that's something that has very real life impacted me, so that's not something that like necessarily I think should be brought up on stage. Another thing is like doing accents. I'm always really careful about, if I'm doing accents on stage, they're accents of populations or people that are predominantly white, because I don't feel comfortable doing other accents, because I feel like it's, I don't want to make fun of a culture, I don't want to make fun of a people, and I don't want to come off as racist, because sometimes that's how it comes off. So the accents. Well, first of all, I can't do any accent to save my life. If I'm ever put in an accent scene, the comedy of that scene comes from how bad I am at accents. My character in the spy show we did came from someone saying, hey, can you do accents? And me saying, no. And they're like, try. And I tried a Russian accent, and it was really bad. And they're like, do that for an entire show. So I did. But the accents I do are, like, made-up accents, gibberish accents, like, Russian accents. I can do British ones. I can butcher Scottish and Irish accents, but they're all, like, predominantly white cultures, and cultures that, well, somewhat cultures that I have in my, some of them are ones that I have in my lineage. Whereas, Ravi in our troupe has some other accents that, like, would probably be okay for him to do, but not necessarily okay for me to do, you know? Just, I feel like, as performers, as artists, as people who are sharing our art with the masses and with a ton of people, it's our job to be careful of what we do. So we don't put anyone in a weird position, so we don't make anyone upset, so we don't make anyone uncomfortable. That's why I also, like, try and be safe in your stage acting, if you're doing jumps, if you're climbing on things, if you're doing play fighting. Know how to do it, be safe in it, and be careful, because as soon as something doesn't look safe, it brings the audience out of the scene. Like, I remember, Sue, you'll remember this one, we've talked about this one, but there was a scene at Nose Bowl a couple years ago, and this one team brought on swords, and the swords didn't have any safety tips on them, and the other teams on stage were way too close, and they were swinging those swords around, and Sue's team almost got whacked with these swords, and the audience was not into the scene at all. They could not focus on the great scene work that was happening, because it was a pretty good scene. Like, from what I remember, the narrative and skills, the technical skills were there, but no one in the audience was focusing on that, because we were watching the tip of the sword almost cut James Scott in the face, because, yeah, Duncan nearly died. It was crazy. So if you're being unsafe, all of your scene work is going down the drain, because the people watching are more worried about your safety and well-being than they are about your characters. Like, I've seen people stack boxes and climb on boxes like 3 boxes high, and watching them wiggle, and everyone in the audience is like, oh my god, please don't fall, please don't hurt yourself. And you could be doing the best scene in existence, but it won't matter, because everyone else will be like, man, I hope that actor doesn't break their leg. So, yeah, be safe. Right, I have notes. I've kind of not really stuck to them, but what else is new? This is Junior Jelly Livestream, more like Hayley just rambles about improv for an hour. That's what this is. But, how to bring platforms, what makes platforms easier, how you can get platforms in, how you can remember what you've established. So, my biggest trick to getting a platform down quickly is get part of the platform in your suggestion. If you can ask for a relationship between 2 people or a location, that's like half your platform right there. Your suggestion is your platform, so you don't have to build a platform, you know? Great. One thing I also do, the hardest part of improv for me is naming characters and remembering those names. Because if you give someone a name in the scene and you call them the wrong name 3 times, the audience will notice. The audience is always smarter than you. Always act as if the audience is smarter than you, because in my case, a lot of times they are. Self-deprecation. Ooh, but yeah, always act as if the audience is smarter than you. So if you forget names and call characters by the wrong name, they're gonna notice. So one thing that I need to start doing, but one of my team captains when I was in high school, he did this all the time. He had like 2 or 3 names that he would always go to. In every scene, there would be a Tina and there would be a Daniel. There was another kid, there would always be a Jonathan in a scene. Just because if you go to the same names, it's easy to remember what you name people if you name people the same thing every time. Say names when you name people. Try and say them like 3 times in a row, or like try and say them as many times as you can when you first name them, because the more you repeat it, the more you'll remember. Hey Alex, welcome to the live. Yeah, say names as many times as you can. My favorite way to introduce relationships, if it hasn't been established already in, like, as the suggestion, it sounds really clunky, but it's funny when it's clunky, I think. But my favorite thing is I like to do familial relationships, but I like to attach a year to it. So I'll be like, you've been my mom for 20 years. Like, it's your mom. They've been your mom for your entire life. But I think it's funny because that's the joke. Or like, we've been brothers for like 6 years. Like, it's no one talks like that in real life, but it's funny to do in a scene. Another tip. This is one of Paul's, but I'm gonna steal it because I'm the one on camera. Fight me, Paul. One of Paul's little mantras is always play the top of your intelligence. So what that means is, while the characters you play might be dumb, you as an improviser are smart. You know a lot of things. This comes into play a lot when I play kids, because I really like playing kids in improv. Part of it is because I think I'm, if not the youngest, then one of the youngest in the troupe. So I feel like a bit of a kid anyway on a regular basis. And I just kind of play that up. But, and part of it is, like, because I like the juxtaposition of, like, playing a 5-year-old, but also going to the scene and be like, you know, I think Dad's manipulating us because he wants to get us off the television. Like, what 5-year-old says that? None of them. But, like, if you play the top of your intelligence, like, if I said that in a scene as a 5-year-old character, that would get a laugh because it's funny. Like, what kid talks like that? So play the top of your intelligence. Even if, like, if you're in a scene as a kid, don't derail the scene, I guess. Don't act like a baby, and if you're a baby, don't act like a real baby and cry and throw everything all over and derail the scene. Like, add to the scene with baby mannerisms. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard to show things without Max and Fuller House. You know, I haven't seen Fuller House, but I'm gonna take you for your word. I'm gonna say probably, because I can't say yes because I haven't seen it, but I appreciate the example. But yeah, I mean, yeah, play to the top of your intelligence. Even if, like, if you're playing like an Igor, you're playing like a dumb character, maybe that's the joke, but, like, play to the top of your intelligence. I'm gonna keep saying it until it's in your brain. I mean, I have tons of time to watch it now that I'm locked in my house forever. I guess I kind of went through a lot of what I wanted to talk about today. I guess, yeah, alright, I'll go back to story structures. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Satisfying ends happen when you tie up the loose ends of their scene. So if there's a conflict, whoever the bad guy is needs to lose. Whoever the villain is needs to lose, and it needs to, your hero, your protagonist, needs to fix whatever problem they have in front of them. Improv works best when people are being positive, because if you're just saying no, if you're being a hack, you're bringing the energy of the scene down. Like, the physical energy of the scene will start to weigh on your partners, because if everything they're giving you is being shot down and swatted away, they're gonna start feeling like why bother? So for that, positivity is important. I said this already, but no one wants to watch two people fighting on stage and being jerks to each other on stage. That's not entertaining. And you can discover more if you keep on saying yes and you keep on being positive and you keep on building each other up. You can find great new things. One of my favorite, I guess it's not really a scene, it's more an exercise, but the game is you're giving a situation, and it's a negative situation, like customer service, or I scratched your car, or you're bullying me at school, and you do that scene in that situation, but every reaction is positive. Like, no matter what happens, you have to react in a positive way. So one example of when we did it, I think it was Paul and Vicky. It was like predator and prey. One was a lion, one was a lion, one was a hyena, and they were fighting over a kill. I got to be the kill. I got to lay on the ground and be dead. But it was, oh, did you kill that? I don't know. It's hard to do an example, but it was just heightening the positivity, and it just, it's hard to do examples by myself, but positivity is key. Positivity is so important. A lot of times when I'm teaching the junior jellies, we've got the platform down. I've kind of beat that into them. Not literally, I'm a good teacher. Like, don't call any protective services on me, but like, I think I've got that in their brains. I think they're pretty good at getting that down. We're really good at the start of the scene, but we're not good at the end of the scene. We're struggling to find the natural conflict and then to tie it up. Which, it's only been a couple months, and considering that this is my first time like coaching or teaching, we're doing just fine, I think. And that not everyone is there every rehearsal, and also some of them, this is their second session, and some of them, this is their first session. That really makes it a little harder to make sure everything's moving along smoothly. But I think we've got platforms down. We need to start finding natural conflicts. So I go back to my concept of staying in the circle of the scene when I think of this, because if you've come into a scene, you've established your platform, you kind of got a feel for what the characters are, the conflict should come to you. You should be able to find an obvious conflict, and you shouldn't have to pull some random conflict out of the air. Like if I painted a scene and say, we're in this hypothetical scene, we're in a grocery store, and the two characters are two employees at the store, and one of them has a little bit more seniority over the other, kind of a boss, and the other one's really ambitious. Like if that's the platform I just set up right now off the top of my head, some obvious conflicts I can see from that is one of them's senior and they're trying to pull their rank all the time to get out of work, and they're taking advantage of the ambition of the second one. Like, that's a really natural conflict. That's kind of true to life, I think, in probably some situations, but that I didn't have to make up. Like, it's not that because not staying in the circle of the scene would be like saying, okay, so these are the characters you put together, and then all of a sudden, tsunami hits the store, and we have to figure out how to survive. Like that, like, it's a conflict, but it's not really in the circle of the scene, and it's not really what you already created. If you do your job and create good characters and you have a strong platform, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to just make up an idea afterwards or out of thin air. And just like staying in the circle of the scene, just like I'm sorry, I'm all over this place today, but just like your conflict should come from what you've already come up with, your resolution should too. So in this specific scenario that I've just created, maybe, so the conflict is one of them is taking advantage of the other. Maybe they push it and they push it and they push it, and finally this younger employee who's being taken advantage of blows and like tells the other person off. I know I said before that the best conflict comes from external conflict, so let's ignore me being a hypocrite for the moment, but like in this situation, I think it's very clear who needs to lose and where the status is. The status is the more senior employee is higher status, and they need to lose because they're the one being a butthead. It's more satisfying for the other person to win in this situation. So then my resolution to this conflict would be the younger person tells them off, is real with their feelings, makes some confessions, and says this, like maybe they say, this store wouldn't run without me. So if you want to keep this store running, if you want to keep your job as manager or whatever, then you should be nicer to me because I'm going to stop doing work if you keep treating me like this. And then, like, maybe that humbles the other one and they apologize, and, like, that's the end of the scene. Like, all of that scene came from the platform. The platform was strong. the hypothetical platform that I just told off the top of my head in my dad's office alone, the platform was strong, and it gave you everything you needed to know, and you pulled everything you needed one by one from there. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know, it's hard to tell if things make sense if I can't see people's faces and see how they're processing information. It's really just me talking into the void. Restart that sentence. One of the things that I always kind of say to myself and remind people, not just in improv, but in my classes at school and everything, is you have to learn the rules and learn them well so you know how to break them. So I guess that's my example right there. I said that you shouldn't have person-on-person conflict because it can get really negative, that you should have external conflict. I know the rules, so I can break them. I know how to make it work so it doesn't seem super negative because I've done this before, and part of that is just status and making people lose. So I guess getting the fundamentals down is the most important, because then you can really start to play. And you can break rules, or also you can just put weird and wacky things on top of the rules. Excuse me. One of my favorite formats, one of my favorite things to do in improv is rap games. I really like improvised rapping, which sounds like it's terrible. Like, if you don't know improv and you hear improvised rap, it sounds like it's terrible. And honestly, from an objective music standpoint, I'm not winning any Grammys, but it's fun to try, because I know my fundamentals. I know how to tell a good story through improv. I know what needs to go in a scene. So it's fun to, like, really amp up the difficulty level and, like, try and deliver all of that through improvised rapping. One of my other favorite types of scenes is backwards scenes. Those are so hard. I've only ever seen it done successfully, like, maybe twice. And that's when you start at the end with your suggestion and you go, like, a little vignette by vignette or sentence by sentence, and you build your scene backwards. It's hard, but, like, once you know the rules, once you know the fundamentals, then you can kind of reverse engineer a scene. Oh man, I've gotten, like, through 1 live and a half, and I haven't even talked about stakes yet. When I won Spirit of the Games at Improv or at CIG, they called me Stakes Queen. I haven't even talked about stakes yet. I'm really letting down my kingdom. So that's another fundamental of improv. Stakes. It's not the food stakes, although that's delicious. It's why it matters. Why whatever the conflict is, why it matters to the characters, why it matters to the community, why it matters to the world of the scene. Breck, I think you're my only junior jelly in the chat right now, but I think you probably, if not by name, you'll know what stakes is, because I make you do it in scenes. In every scene, I'll make you guys go, this matters because, for almost every sentence, because that's basically stakes. It's why this matters. Oh yeah, there was one practice where we did toaster, and for every scene, I made them all say at some point during the scene, verbatim, this matters because blank, because haha, because that kind of gets that in your brain. Once you do that enough times, then you kind of do it instinctively. So yeah, if we're going back to my example of the superstore 2 employees, the stakes in that scene, for the younger employee, we'll name him John. Yeah, that's a good name. John, the stakes for him would be he's taking advantage of, he's being overworked, and it's making him lose the passion and ambition he had. That's pretty good stakes. The stakes for the other character are, he's been getting by doing nothing for a long time, and it's put him in a situation that if he doesn't step up, he might lose his job, and the store will stop functioning properly. I think those are pretty good stakes too. The stakes for the store are, if their employees aren't working properly, the store can't function. The stakes for the customers is, if the store is not functioning properly, they aren't getting the service they need. They aren't getting the stuff on the shelves. Like, maybe not, some of that can be implied, maybe not all of it has to be outright said in the scene, but like, that helps make a scene feel so much more important. Like stakes and relationships, those are the two things, in my opinion, that are most important to a scene. Because I think I used this example last week, but if the scene is about a bear attacking, I don't think many of us have been attacked by a bear, but we can understand the relationship between the two people, and we can understand the stakes of, if we don't survive this, the bear's gonna eat us, because that's why it matters. One trick, I forget if my coach taught us this, or if like a trainer from Rapid Fire taught us this, but it's the concept of the because shovel. So, you say why it matters, so, this live matters because I want to share, or this matters because I want to share improv with the world, because I think it's important, because I think improv makes people's lives better, because I think it brings us closer together, because I think it adds positivity. Like, that's me adding more and more because, and the more becauses I add, the more important, in this example, this live is. I'm really hyping myself up, especially considering there's only 4 people watching, but I hope that makes sense. Like, if you say something matters, add a because layer. Dig that because shovel and add more and more layers as to why it matters. Just check what time it is. How long have I been talking for? I'm gonna lose my voice eventually. 7:11. Wow. That's a good 45 minutes almost. So I don't know how much longer I'll stay on, because last week's live was only 45 minutes-ish. I'm going to save this to my story after it's done, so it'll be there afterwards. And I've also been saving them to my phone afterwards and uploading them to YouTube, because there's a reason I've been doing these on lives instead of like doing them in Zoom or on Skype or like doing chats like that. I want as many people to be able to access this as possible, because Junior Jellies is a library program at the end of the day, where like anyone who fits within the age requirements can join it if they want to for free. And I think it's important to keep it as open as possible. Like, I know maybe just one person watching right now fits within the age, but like, you can still come and join and learn things, and that's important to me. I think education, improv education, should be open to everyone. So, I've been posting them to YouTube. If anyone wants the link to them and they can watch back later, message me. If anyone has any questions about what I've talked about, add them in the comments. I'll stay on for a few more minutes. Just mess around, I guess, before I lose my voice. I've been really looking forward to these lives. This is only the second one I've done, and they're very intimidating. It's very surreal to talk without getting any feedback. Without getting any feedback and without getting any response, really. There's some responses in the chat, but it's so surreal to just talk to yourself, or not just talk to yourself, because I talk to myself all the time, but talk to yourself and know that people are listening, but you can't hear their reply. If one person learns something, that's worth it. That's my thoughts. Mine too. Even if it's not even people learning things too, maybe if it's just people reviewing things, or they know it, but they'd never heard it explained that way, and now it finally clicks. Or maybe you're just bored at home and you haven't talked to anyone but your family in a month, and you just need to hear someone else's voice. Just need to see some weird kid in her pajamas in her dad's office talk to her phone. I think it's important. It's important to me to make these as accessible as possible. My grandma called me. My grandparents live in Saskatchewan, and she called me the other day because they're together, but there's not, all of our extended family lives far away, and she wanted to check in and wanted to talk, and I was talking about these lives, and she's like, wait, can I watch them? I'm not on Instagram. So that's selfishly part of the reason why they're on YouTube, because I want my grandma to see them. I love my grandma. I want her to see my work. And I mean, it's good for me to have them on YouTube too, so I can watch them back and be like, oh, okay, I already talked about that. Because I repeated myself. Is repeated the right tense? Sure. I repeated myself quite a bit this time, but like I feel like I would repeat myself even more if if I hadn't watched back my other one. Yeah. Anybody got any questions for me? Can chat a little about how everyone's day's been going, how everyone's quarantine's been going. My brother and I watched Premier Kenny's address yesterday. Political thoughts aside, well, like, I am very clearly not someone who voted for him, but he's doing fine. But one thing he said was so funny to us. At one point he said, don't be a cow, be a buffalo. And that was, not only was that one of the weirdest analogies I've ever heard, but it made me laugh so much. And my brother's been yelling it at me ever since. Like, just finding little moments of levity in dark times. Yeah, make like a buffalo. Well, I think his analogy was like when things get hard, cows run away, but buffalo herd together, and buffalo are native to Alberta, so we should be like the buffalo. And Daniel was just like, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure it's bison in Alberta, not buffalo. Second of all, we shouldn't herd together. We should be social distancing. But just the phrasing of how he phrased it, we thought it was so funny. So we've been repeating it to each other. But moments of levity like that, I think, is important in dark times, because that's what this is. I feel like it's not... Buffaloes are going to be hilarious after this. Exactly. Jason Kenney didn't know what he started with that buffalo comment. Now it's going to be the biggest joke of the Nieth household specifically. I think staying connected during these dark times too are important. I haven't been doing let's do Seymour Buffaloes. Hell yeah. I'm very down for that. I think staying connected is really important. That's something that I necessarily haven't been doing so well, because last week I accidentally turned myself nocturnal, and it's hard to stay in contact with people when they're all asleep when you're awake. Of course I've got people in my house that I can talk to, but I think it's important to talk to your loved ones and make sure you're talking to them, make sure you're checking in on them, make sure you're sending jokes to your improv team in the group chat every once in a while. Just, it's a good time to check up on it. Oh, excuse me. We had Chinese food for dinner and it's giving me the hiccups. I think it's important to check up on people in your life, because a lot of us are really fortunate, but not everyone is, be that financially or in their situations, or I talk to Paul, I'm just not sure he's listening. I talk to my dogs, they're definitely not listening. Everyone under 25 is now nocturnal. I turned completely nocturnal and then turned myself back into a day dweller again. Last night, I went to bed at 7 p.m. and woke up at 5 a.m. That's like almost normal people times. I'm really proud of myself. But I fully expect to be nocturnal again in like 4 days. That's just how it be sometimes. But yeah, I think a lot of us are really lucky that we're in good financial situations and in good health, and we're surrounded by people who care about us, but not everyone is. And I think it's important to check up on people, make sure their mental health is good, make sure that they're doing okay, because I think loneliness is the biggest virus we're combating right now. I think COVID-19's real bad, but also like being alone, being shut in your house, it can really do wonders to your head. I saw a meme the other day that was like cut from The Sims 3. It was like a screenshot of the little moodlets you get, and it was like stir crazy. Whatever person it was needs to leave the house now before they go insane. It's like, yeah, that's me. So today I went to the bank and I deposited a check. And that's my social interaction outside of my family for the week. So yeah, I guess I just want to end this and say, if you need to talk to anyone, I'm here. I might take a little little while to respond because sometimes I forget I'm human and I have to answer messages, but I'm here. I'm here to talk on the phone if people want it, unless it's long distance, because I don't know if I have long distance and I don't want to make my dad mad, but I probably do. So, yeah, if you need to phone me, if you need to FaceTime me, I'm not the most put together person, but I'm funny sometimes, so maybe that'll lift your spirits. And I'll be back on here next week, and I'll post this one to YouTube, so I don't know, I guess I shouldn't say this to you all because you're watching it right now, but I guess to everyone who missed it, who wouldn't be watching this right now, or if they are, they already found it on YouTube, but I will be posting them to YouTube. And I guess I'll be back next week. Next week I think I want to talk about scene painting and what makes a good scene paint. And then depending on how long that takes me to do, maybe building good characters too. I don't know. It is sometime in the future I think I want to... I don't know how well going live with other people works on Instagram. I've heard it's really buggy, but if I can get it to work, I might want to go live with someone at some point just to like bounce ideas off of or maybe do short demos, but that's a few weeks away, I think. So, who knows? Consume some improv. Breck, you're the only junior jelly in here, but consume some improv. That's your homework. Even if that's looking up CIG scenes on YouTube, watching some Whose Line Is It Anyway, any of that stuff. Watch some improv. It'll be pre-recorded because that's how we roll these days, but watch some improv. That's your homework. I will see you all next week. Same time. I mean, same place, meaning this Instagram account, but maybe not same place. I don't know if my dad will let me be in his office next week, but I'll see you all. Well, you'll all see me next week. I will see myself in my phone camera because I'm the only one here. Okay. Before I go crazy. Bye, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me.